and into an actual like concrete anchor. Yeah, I'm a little torn on whether like which surface to go with. But
I think from one of the earlier images that I had in my head, sort of almost like a granite slab type of thing, and then as you were talking about it, I'm like, didn't sound like it fit. That's why I asked the question.
yeah, I like
no
the
artistic ability whatsoever. So.
I sort of like the idea of the stamped because I could stamp in the clock dial.
Yeah.
You know.
Could you stamp in any Nipmuc iconography or anything like that?
It's funny. I've talked to them a bit about that. I don't. What I'll have is probably. I'll have like what you're not seeing are the signage elements, and there will be a fair amount. But I'll have a reproduction of the land deed.
So there'll be some signage that will give the history and so forth for
Yeah.
people to walk around and look at. And just so everyone knows, we've gone live, so we all are being recorded on WACA Cable TV, and we're here with Dan Borelli, who is doing a project on the middle school property that was approved some time ago, and it will be a memorial garden honoring the Nyanza experience here in Ashland.
Yeah, and now the Nipmuc as well.
The Nipmuc as well, yes. So hopefully we got some of what you said on another tape somewhere so we can share that with the community, because it's really fascinating and interesting what you've been able to uncover and what you're doing.
I think post opening, there'll be a opening celebration. I think during like after that moment would be a time to work with Krista and just on creating, sharing all of the research that I have and helping her put together whatever lessons she or a history professor would need.
Terrific. So I think what we might need tonight is an approval to move the fence, to expand the fence on school property. That is something that's different from the original plan. So we're looking for a motion to
allow for double gated fence to be put in.
Moved.
But that'll be covered by the grant that you have, the money to
Yeah.
refurb. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
Yeah, it's no cost to us. It's just allowing a
Yep.
change on school property.
Okay.
So, do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
I seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. And any other questions or comments about the project?
I'm just going to say I'm just amazed at
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
idea.
I think it
Yeah.
looks great.
Phenomenal.
In the history,
memorial.
the deep history you've discovered,
Mm-hmm.
all of that.
It was very interesting. And welcome the opportunity for the kids to be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that moment. I'm glad that I have the donation from the laborers because there is some heavy work. So once the heavy work is completed, we can then turn it over and have like the more fun work happen with the kids. So I really appreciate you letting me share this, and I'm very proud to be from the town and see it as like an asset to give to the town. I was stunned as a Harvard employee to find this land deed history.
Wow.
Just stunned.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
also it's very rare to have any kind of material artifacts from that era of American Indian inhabitation. So I think it's a real kind of gift to the town.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
and all
there.
the signs of
Right.
all these things coming together, and thank you for picking Ashland to do your project. You could have done it anywhere, I'm sure. So you're enriching our community with your service. So thank you.
It's a pleasure. So,
So
any more questions?
you know where to find us if you have any other questions or
Okay.
along the way, and we'll look forward to hearing about the progress.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank
Thank
All
you,
right.
Dan.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Okay. Next up, we have a discussion on the vote on the FY17 athletic program fees. That's you,
Mr. Grimes.
Mr. Grimes.
This is going to be a little tough to follow, but we'll do our best.
We'll do our best. Welcome.
Thank you very much. So, I think for athletics this year, it's been a good year. We've seen a lot of great things with athletics this year. Just to kind of talk about some of our successes in the fall sports, we had football, went very deep into the playoffs. Volleyball, for the first time in several years, made the tournaments. All of our teams improved from the year before. So it was a great, exciting fall. Our winter season, we had a great winter season. We were the swim champs for the TVL. We had several strong individual indoor track showings. Our girls hockey was a co-op with several other teams. They made a very good run into the tournament. Our gymnastics team was very successful this year. Well, our co-op gymnastics team was very successful this year. This was also the first year we did the ski team co-op with Medfield. And, I had a recap with Eric Scott, the Medfield AD, and the coaches yesterday. We're looking forward to, another good season, hopefully increasing the number of kids, participants. We didn't really get it through until, approved until November. So some student athletes had already decided to do other things, and we've gotten a good feedback that there's going to be more interest in the teams coming forward. We hosted the sectional wrestling tournament. Got a lot of great feedback from that, from our facilities, from our athletes, from our volunteers, and also with the wrestling team. We're looking to split from our co-op from Keefe Tech. Our coaches have done a great job in building the program, building a strong program. They did an enormous amount of fundraising and was able to almost fully fundraise for a mat. It's going to be, once everything's put through, the Clocker Club is going to help fund the rest of the mat. Spring sports off to a good start. Baseball and softball are off to good starts. Track is competing well. Both lacrosse and tennis, they're also competing very well. So that's kind of an overview of what the athletics look like this year. Some of the things we're looking at too, we're not looking to increase fees this year. Fees are going to remain the same. I think that's important for everybody to know. Some other things that we've been doing, had a great meeting today with DPW and facilities, along with Mr. Adams, working to collaborate to really, keep our facilities, our fields up to the highest standards. We have some of the best fields, some of the best facilities in the TVL. We're also lucky enough to have 2 turf fields. And so we're looking to keep those up in the tip-top shape. I've been doing a inventory of equipment, inventory of uniforms, something that hasn't been done in the past. So we're really kind of keeping a look at, trying to keep our uniforms up to date, looking good. We're using a new vendor now too. Myself, I can't say enough for Mrs. Duane in the office. She has done so much, worked very well together. She does an enormous amount. And one of the bigger things that we kind of did, we've been organizing like coaches trainings and things like that to keep all the coaches up to date, all the trainings up to date. I started last month, got all the captains together to start a captain's council, kind of to develop our captains to be the leaders we want them to be in our schools, out in our community. Also, I want to say, I can't say enough about our coaching staff. We have some very dedicated coaches. I see them in school. I see the way the athletes interact with them, not only the athletes, but the students in general. I can't say enough about the coaching staff that we have. Kind of looking at the budget, do you have any questions going forward with the budget? Any concerns you'd like me to address?
Lori, do you mind if I ask kind of a related question?
Oh, please.
Not directly related to the numbers of the budget, but just how do the opportunities that we offer to our students compare to what comparable districts in the area offer? Number of opportunities, number of teams. Are there things that we're not offering that you think there's interest in that you'd like to see in the next year or two added in?
It's even adding like something like the ski team this year. We are right there. We don't have maybe as higher numbers as say some of the surrounding towns, which allow them to have more freshman teams. But we do have plenty of opportunities for, for our student athletes here in the district. Something also going forward is I would love to start trying to make, more of a student-driven. I see sometimes there's some disconnect with some of the students. I want to get them more involved in the athletics, offering them some community service hours to come out, maybe film some games, do some, sorry, just looking through the notes, film some games. I have a student helping me with work on the website right now. Be the timers for the games. That's some of the things that, we do have event staff that we have, but some of the other teams, some of the other schools in the area, they use students to do those things, such as time for games. And I think it provides a great opportunity to kind of bring more people together. Going forward, I'd love to see one point in time, see a pep band at the football games, not having athletics drive the bus, but it can, bring more people together on a Friday night, having that Friday night lights, that would be a great opportunity, getting more people out there to see the games. I'd like to see more students out supporting the teams, maybe adjusting some hours so they can get out there, things like that. But in general, yeah, I think we are very comparable with our numbers to the opportunities that we afford our students here.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I have a question, really. It's not necessarily my question, but sometimes with school committee, we hear from parents or with
Oh, I'm sure.
questions. And one of the budget questions that I was asked recently was, and I see you have like the supply line items, and most teams are getting $500. Is it up to the discretion of the coach how to spend that money? Like, how does, if supplies are needed for a team, how does it work? Do they have to come to you and make a request? Or does the coach have their little budget?
Well, I've kind of taken a look at the inventory. So just for instance, for footballs, coming in, we had gotten practice footballs and game footballs.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at, why can't we just take the game footballs and make them then the practice footballs? So we're not buying extra footballs every year.
Right.
Taking a look at, I found in the back storage closet, I found seven cases of lacrosse balls. So we're all set for lacrosse balls for a little while. So it's like taking a look at what we have. So that's why I've been doing some inventory, things like that, and really seeing what do we need to spend money on. And then going forward too, taking a look at, can we help some teams and, get them some practice pennies and things like that. The teams themselves right now are more or less buying their practice pennies, for their warm-ups before games, things like that. They'll do some fundraising. But more or less, the supplies in general, I want to just say right now, it's still a work in progress, just seeing what we have, what we need,
Gotcha.
and kind of going forward from there. There are some things we definitely need to improve upon, taking care of our stuff, the maintenance of our stuff. And I think if we do that, we'll be able to expand the life of our equipment, our uniforms, things like that.
Thank you.
No problem.
Anything else? Anybody else? So I think we probably need a motion, though, to approve the athletic fees for the year. Does anybody want to make that motion?
So what are we approving?
Just-
That they're not
They're
being
flat.
raised?
That the fees are
Staying the same?
identical. Yep.
So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Mike.
You're not off the hook yet, Mike.
I didn't think so.
No, I just want, because we've had quite a bit of conversation with regard to the athletic handbook. I just want Mike to give us an update,
Okay.
so we know what to expect in the coming meetings before the end of the year.
So at the last meeting that we had, we finished the handbook itself, like going through, putting in everything we need. We do have one little thing that we need to get, but
Okay.
I'm sure it'll be there. But no, right now I'm at the point where I'm just editing the document, doing the grammar, things like that. And then once I have that all done, I'm gonna send it back to the group, a very good group of people that, volunteers that helped put this handbook together, a few coaches, parents. So I really like the way the document looks, and we really started to incorporate too and add in there the middle school sports and take in things from the middle school handbook and adding them in there. So there's more continuity. So when the kids come up to the high school, they know what's expected coming through. So hopefully, it's been a pretty crazy spring with rescheduling. So hopefully I can.
Yeah, the weather in the beginning was,
Yeah, snow.
yeah,
We didn't have snow all winter, and then it just decided to drop. But no, hopefully that will be done next week. We'll be out, and then we'll have it
So probably
before the end of
the second
before the
meeting
end.
in May.
All right,
Fantastic.
sound good?
Perfect.
Sounds great.
Okay.
So you'll miss it.
She's been a part of it.
Yeah,
She
she's
could-
on
she
the-
could present it.
She's
You'll
on
be
the
on the other
committee.
side
Yeah.
then.
It'll give you an
Okay.
excuse to come right back. Actually, we are gonna make it that meeting, so we make sure that you come back to it.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're just gonna kick it over.
Exactly.
Meeting after meeting, so keep 'em back.
And then we're gonna put school start time on the next
There
one.
we go. All right. We're not letting you go.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Is there anything
Mike?
else? Any other questions,
comments
concerns,
while we
anything
have the
going
athletic
forward?
director?
All right.
Oh, good. Keep up the good work.
You're surviving your first year.
Right now, it is
I
what
see
it is.
you're
I'm
here,
still
so-
learning. I'm still standing, and
Yeah.
it just again, I was outside today watching a lacrosse game, and
Yeah,
that's
right.
that's the best part of the job.
Great part of your job,
It
right?
really is.
Yeah.
It really is. Thank you very much, and
Right.
if you have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we're on to bus fees.
We are. So we are recommending that we keep the fees for the buses the same moving forward to next year. So the bus fee currently is $280 per student with a family cap of $560. And that was set in 2008 when we started, I believe that was when we started fees even for athletics. Right around 2007, 2008, we started charging those fees. So, discussions with Ms. Duran, we feel comfortable from the budgetary standpoint that this is appropriate to continue forward with.
Okay, great.
Any questions or comments about that?
Yeah, just maybe for anybody who's watching, Jim,
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about whether there's any particular grades that the fee applies to, or the parameters of when we have to provide
Right.
transportation as opposed to, and a fee wouldn't apply?
So we're required by law for K through 6 outside of 2 miles, right? So that's what's required by law. Anyone else that wants to ride the bus within that, inside the 2 miles, they've got to pay to ride the bus.
Okay.
So,
And then it's 7 through 12,
It's-
it's anybody.
correct, anybody through there, correct. So, and we do have other transportation needs that we have for students who are attending other vocational schools. So we have a student at Tri-County in Franklin and in Norfolk Aggie. So we have to provide that transportation as well, so, which is not part of this fee. But because Keefe Tech, which is our collaborative, our vocational school, doesn't have a certain program, then our students can apply to these other schools. And so transportation costs occur there as well.
And about what percentage of our students end up paying the bus fee, if you know?
I do, if I can remember off the top of my head. So we have less than 50% of the students at the high school take the bus. And it's 60% at the middle school. And then it goes up to close to 80% of the students are riding the bus at Warren and Mendez. And I don't know the exact percentage of the fees for those schools, but I certainly can get that. It changes every year based on students who live in one area are going to, say, 87 West Union in next year, and they're at Mendez the year before, right? So they could potentially be outside that 2 mile range, but then inside the 2 mile range
Right.
the next year. So it does vary. So, same with Warren and going to Mendez. So, I mean, so Diane Gowdy is always looking at, we have a software that looks at exactly the way the law reads is, driveway to driveway. So we're looking at, constantly families are calling, are we 2 miles or are we 1.9? So we're looking, because it's a fee and it's an expense for a family,
Right.
so.
And in September, Diane and I do many
Yeah,
drives around town
exactly.
using the mileage on my car.
Yeah, we do, because we want to be, again, it's a fee, right? And we want to make sure it's accurate, so.
Fair enough.
So I have to say, there was one year that I sent in my fee and I got it back because I miscalculated.
Right.
And apparently I was closer
Right.
than I imagined, so my fee came back, so.
Yeah. So, no,
Yeah,
Diane
look
works
at
really
it.
hard at that, and
Yep.
it's constant. And we're very fortunate, Donna Walsh, with Connolly is just, she's a great, partner for us. And it's, just think about a couple weeks ago with, the bomb threat at the high school. We had the buses there within, 30 minutes, to get our kids out of that school. It was phenomenal. So, really good partners. But I believe our contract is up. We have one more year.
Right, so
Right.
probably
So-
around October, November, we'll be putting out bid for a new contract.
Right.
When does it end? 2017?
2017,
Correct.
so
We start the
in
process.
the mid-year, we'll start the process.
Mhm. Okay, thanks. So, we need a motion?
Yes, we need the motion for the bus fee. Set at $280 per student with a $560 family cap.
So
Recommended
moved.
to keep it at the
Second.
same rate.
So
All in
moved.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
People are anxious tonight to get going, huh?
Fantastic. Okay. So, I'm thinking, Mr. Adams, why don't we add those next two items here?
Okay.
One, if you could explain what the health report is.
Sure.
And what we need to do.
Right. So every 2 years, the Department of Public Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, requires us to complete forms that show what nursing staff is administering medication on field trips, et cetera. So just recently, today, we received the packet from the Department of Public Health. And so what needs to happen is we fill out a form, we have to return it. Our school doctor, Dr. Charter, signs the form, superintendent signs the form, and the chair of the school committee signs the form. Audrey LaCroix, as the lead nurse, is in charge of filling everything out, informing if we have a changing nursing staff, she's required to then inform the Department of Public Health as well that we have someone new administering medication, and then she's responsible for making sure the training exists. So all I need, and it's actually, we have a policy in place in our policy handbook that talks about the application. And so this is in accordance with, I'm going to read this because I had Karen write it up so I wouldn't forget it, but the Massachusetts Department of Public Health Regulations 105 CMR 210.005, which requires a development of a plan for medication administration during field trips and other short-term school events. And the Ashland Public Schools is required to submit a registration application and medication administration plan to the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and we do this every 2 years.
Okay.
So what I'm looking for is a motion to support the MDPH school health application for administration of medications during field trips and short-term special school events, and to allow the chair of the school committee and myself to sign on behalf of the school.
We have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It's just, again,
Thanks, Jim.
formality.
Okay.
Okay. The next item is just an update and an opportunity, if anybody has any questions, on we received an open meeting law complaint from Mr. Steve Morgan. We responded, and we discussed that response in open meeting. We heard back from the state saying that there have been no findings, and that there is another step that Mr. Morgan needed to take that he hadn't taken. He has until a certain date in mid-May to take that step, and if he doesn't take it, then the matter will be dismissed.
That's it. Yep.
Yep. Any questions or comments about that? This is status update. So,
Thank you.
okay. And now we have under superintendent's report. Do you have a report before we get into talking about the?
I just have one thing I'd like to report on that was completed today. The last meeting I mentioned, we went through our Title I audit and came out unscathed. And so today was our final wrap-up meeting with the Department of Education for our Title IIA audit, which is professional development funds that are given to the town of Ashland. It's about $47,000. And we use it for mentoring as well as professional development of staff in our PBIS initiatives. And I'm happy to report at the end of the phone call today, through the audit process, there are no findings with regard to our Title IIA use of funds and record keeping. So I'm very pleased with that.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
you.
That's excellent.
And I'd like to, again, publicly thank Joan Paluski and Claudia Bialczyk for their work in pulling all of this information together to get to the state. It's a lot of data that has to be compiled and sent off. So.
Great.
That's great news.
Great,
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay, and then next, we need a discussion and vote. One of us needs to volunteer to be on the committee for the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment Search Committee.
Right. So our policy states you don't have to have someone on the committee. We may appoint someone. So I'm leaving it to the committee. You in the end will appoint the individual because it's an assistant superintendent position. Therefore, by Mass General Law, you are responsible. So that person will come before this committee in June at some point, presumably, and for you to interview and to make a final appointment. So if someone wants to spend the time, and I can give you the dates, I think I gave you a rough draft last time, but the May 3rd, which is next Tuesday, at, I believe, 3:30.
I have 3 to 4:30.
Yeah, so about 3 to 4:30 in the afternoon. And then on Friday, May 6th, 8 a.m. to now it's about 12:30. So.
Okay, 8 a.m.
And we have currently 46 applicants, and I have whittled the 46 down to 23. We have a number of faculty, parents from site councils, ASHPAC representative, central office administration, as well as building administration on the committee currently. And they are participating in what I said, a 20-minute activity, looking through the 23 resumes and using a rubric that I created to do a little more triage, if you will, to determine the number of applicants we will be looking at.
You're not going to look at the 23?
No, we're
Oh,
not
you will?
interviewing
Oh.
23. No,
You're not interviewing 23?
no, we would be
Oh,
here
okay.
for 6 months.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So yeah, so no, the 23 are
So that
the
group is looking
applicants
at
that I've moved forward into the pile for the subcommittee
Got it.
to start reviewing, the search committee, or screening committee, if you will, really. So
How many are you hoping to have to interview?
7 to 10. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Any comments or questions about whether we should have somebody on the committee first?
Or does anyone want to be?
I have the time. I mean, might be
for it.
good.
Look at Aaron.
I can make the time. I feel like it might be.
Maybe one of us should be there.
Yeah, I think it's always good to, it adds another layer.
Yeah.
It's always good to have
Right.
school committee representation on any of those committees.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you were on the athletic director. If you really want to do it,
No, I
I'm
don't.
not going to step in your way.
I
but
checked the
I have not.
Well, no, I
I
checked the
have not,
calendar in case nobody
I have
wanted
not
to
been
do
on a
it.
committee for a while, so I'm
Okay.
feeling like it's my turn.
Okay.
But
Great.
not because I'm dying to do it.
Right.
Just if you are.
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
I thought, I know everyone,
You should be push
No,
somebody
no.
in front of a bus and be
Right.
looking at
Seriously.
I didn't,
No,
well, that's what I was
I'm
saying.
happy to do
I
it.
looked at the
Okay,
calendar.
yeah.
I made sure I was free because I know people work
Yeah.
and I'm not working
I'll do
at the moment, so.
Vote to
Yeah.
appoint Lori.
But I think it would be important to have
Second, we got
somebody.
a first, we got a motion and a second.
Who was the second?
Who seconded?
I did.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you,
great.
Lori.
So,
Yeah, I think it would be
Sure.
important to have
Yeah.
somebody
so
there.
here's my taskmaster hat now, Ms.
You've done
Tosti.
your job.
You'll need to come to the office before you head away, or on Monday, to if you just want to look at
Yes, of course.
the resumes that exist.
So
then,
I had a question though, like
Sure.
after these two
Yes.
days of interviewing, May 3rd and May 6th, then what is
so
the
here's the
process after
process,
that?
right?
Is
So
there
here-
more?
So here's the process as it's outlined actually within the policy, is that the search and screening committee can put forward to me up to 3 applicants. Then I individually interview them. So I will not participate
Right.
in these interviews. I'll be sitting in the background. And then I interview them and then forward to the school committee names for recommendation to the school committee to interview for that position.
Then would we interview them?
You could, yeah.
Or we would just take your
No,
recommendation?
it's a process. I would invite that person here for you to interview, publicly. We would have that conversation and you'd appoint because of the position. Right? If it's a director of curriculum, that would just, by master and law, that'd be my appointment. But this is your appointment. So they would come before you. So if it's one or two, I mean, that will be determined by me.
All right.
So, and if you don't like the one, then we go back to the drawing board. And that happens, and I've seen it happen, so.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Okay, that's done.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
My pleasure.
You're in.
Find a good
I'm
one.
in.
You're in like
Yes.
Flynn.
Okay, budget transfers.
This one's Ms. Rand.
Thank you.
Mr. Rand, Assistant Superintendent report.
Right, so at your last meeting, we gave an indication that we were looking at all of the salary accounts for this current year, and we were seeing substantial savings in some of the accounts. We've done some research into it. After the budget was set last year, we had a large number of resignations, retirements, turnovers, and we have done an analysis of all the staff that went out on maternity leave this year, and maternity leaves alone, we had a savings of over $100,000 this year because we had a number of people take long-term leaves. They only get paid for 8 weeks, so if they take long-term, they're no longer paid after the 8 weeks, and we bring somebody in at a much reduced rate for the remainder of the year, so that alone was a savings of $100,000. So I kind of went through the accounts and tried to pick out the lines that had the bigger amounts so that the list wasn't yay long. So we're asking for a transfer out of the salary accounts totaling $305,600 to be moved into 3 different accounts. One is the SPED out-of-district pending placement account, which has a negative balance right now of $277,400. This, in effect, will wipe out the out-of-district deficit we have right now on the books, and moving forward to the annual town meeting, we will not need to ask for any money out of the SPED stabilization fund.
So just on that point, I did see the warrant circulating. There is a question that's going to be passed over.
Yes, it'll be passed over,
Great.
We had to put a placeholder for an amount.
right.
That
Oh,
was-
okay, right.
That's
Yeah.
what we had to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the amount of $3,200 is the software that we talked about last meeting for the panic buttons, so we can move forward with that. And then a $25,000 for go bags that we talked about. And I do have a little update on that. Ed Berman has worked with a company called 24-Hour Trauma, and by Friday, they will be donating to us 300 heavy-duty plastic bags, Band-Aids, gloves, and a notebook and pen for each bag. And
Michael Jackson.
That's what I thought.
I was more of a Prince fan, God rest his soul,
Thinking
but.
Mickey Mouse, but
I was
that's just-
thinking O.J. Simpson.
Jeez, thanks a lot.
I wasn't thinking
Anyhow.
Back to
anything.
reality.
We digress.
Moving right along.
Go on, Barbara.
And Safety Committee met yesterday, and they have tasked myself and Audrey LaCroix to make up a list of the remaining items that need to be put in. If we can purchase them quickly, we understand there are some high school students who are getting desperate for community service hours.
Volunteer.
So they could fill the bags?
So they can fill
can
the
fill
bags for us.
bags.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
How can we do that?
How can I get on that?
I am.
Do you
We'll
need to
let you know.
graduate?
Well, I need them for National Honor Society.
Right. as well, right.
Oh,
okay.
that's right.
I'll be in touch with you.
Right, you
Thank
get
you.
first dibs, because you know people.
Or just drop him at his house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Line them up in your bedroom.
So Barbara, just to, for the money, so this column just shows like where these savings are?
Right, these,
This
Other salary lines.
credit side there?
these lines
Okay.
right now are showing a positive balance
Okay.
that will not be needed for the rest of the year,
Okay.
because we've
So we're
encumbered
using
all
that
salaries.
to take care.
Right.
Great, okay, thanks.
Fantastic.
So we need a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, to make the transfer. I don't know if it's printed out, the exact motion.
I move to approve the budget transfer request of $305,600 as presented. Does that work?
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Okay, the next, discussion and vote, appointments to negotiation team contract for food and nutrition services.
So the Food and Nutrition Services Workers Contract is up at the end of this year. It's time for us to sit down and negotiate with them. They're not a union, they're more a unit. And it's a very easy 1 hour, 1.5 hour negotiation. One of the managers, Lisa Bowden, and the superintendent and myself have typically just met in a room and hammered out the agreement. So we're looking for a vote of school committee tonight to allow Mr. Adams and myself to do that negotiation. And then later, we'll be looking for executive session to get your guidance on the approach to take.
Okay.
Okay. You have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thanks.
My God, how are we this?
Okay. Student programs and services,
Is Kathy Silva?
Miss Kathy Silva.
Wait, am I missing?
So, as you know, I had invited Ms. Silva to come have a discussion, give us a brief update on special education, ELL, and I just reminded her, I'd also mention of the next audit that we'll be going through, start, I think, next week, beginning, so I'll turn the chair over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Thank you for having me and being interested in hearing updates with regard to student services. I appreciate this chance to brag a little bit, update you a little bit, and certainly cite some of the future areas where I think we need to pay careful attention and be creative in some solving of problems. I think I'm going to break it down in terms of talking about our English language learners first and then move into special education, if that's okay with everyone. As of March, SIMS reporting, which is the Student Information Management System, we had 117 English language learners within the district. 90 of them were at the elementary level. So it really speaks to the volume of our English language learners at Warren and Mendez. And this does not count the ELLs that potentially are at the preschool level. Although we do send home language surveys out to students who are at the preschool, we are not regulated to provide services. So they kind of sit and wait until kindergarten screening when we screen them for their language proficiency and make that determination of whether or not they truly are English language learners and need the services. This year we did have a high of 127.
Wow.
So I just want to kind of say it's a moving number. We are meeting the service needs as regulated or recommended by the Department of Education, but there are some scheduling difficulties that crop up from time to time at each of the buildings, particularly at Mendez and Warren, again, because they have the highest numbers. What generates the scheduling difficulties can be things like a family moving in, and then the placement of that child within a classroom that doesn't have other ELL students in it. So then all of a sudden, the staff are needing to rearrange their schedules, and that might challenge them to get in the appropriate service delivery minutes. The finding of a dual, excuse my frogginess, the finding of some dual needs. So if a student along the course of their education becomes, let's say, special education eligible as well as being an English language learner, then two service areas are trying to fit into their schedule the service needs for that child. And so there might be a rearranging of that as well, and that might make things complicated. So we try the best that we can, and we are very close to being fully compliant with regard to the recommended service delivery minutes. And I do want to say that those are recommended. So there is some wiggle room, and really it should be up to professional judgment. So our English language learner teachers, our teachers really need to drive what they believe to be the most appropriate services. So again, we get the recommendations of the total service minutes, but they need to really judge, does the child need that much? Do they need more? Do they need less? And go forward with their own professional opinions. We completed access testing just recently, and we used both computer online testing as well as paper and pencil. I'm not positive which one I like better, but we'll all be doing computer at some point, so whether or not I like pen and paper better isn't going to matter much in a few years. It's going to be online testing.
Kathy, could you explain what access in WIDA means for the board?
absolutely. Access testing is looking at the language proficiency skills that students are obtaining. So that is what allows us to get levels of their language proficiency across the domains of speaking, listening, writing, reading. And that helps us generate both data to use to see how effective we are with our curriculum and instruction, as well as the level of servicing needs that students might have. You kind of threw in WIDA, okay, which is a little bit different, but all tied into that retail initiative, which is what you're thinking of. I will forecast that kindergarten screening at this point in time is seeing a high number of students that they're thinking might potentially become ELL students in the kindergarten year. So we are thinking we're going to have a high number, quite honestly. This year, for kindergarten students, we have 15 English language learners. We're thinking we'll probably have a much higher number next year, just given the screen. I don't want to say it because it.
Well, I guess my question is, like, is there confidence that the staffing that we're budgeting for is going to be adequate?
Guess that answers that
It's
question.
never adequate.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
You ask such a hard question, and I hesitate because
Doesn't have a simple answer.
I'm on camera,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but yes, I think we will have enough staffing. I don't think our growth is going to be as dramatic as we have seen in years past in terms of our ELL numbers, but I also didn't know to predict that we'd have the dramatic growth that we had in the past 2 years. So given I was wrong for 2 years in a row in terms of the dramatic growth, I'm not sure I want to be wrong 3 years in a row and say that I don't think it will be there.
Apologize on that, Kathy, and just for somebody who's kind of new to this, I remember you talking about this either just before or after I came on the committee. Can you give me a sense of what that growth is over the last couple of years?
Since I came, it's been, when I was here first, 5 years, it was 60 ELLs in the district, so we've doubled.
And we crossed the threshold, right? What's the number for high
100.
incidence district? So we crossed that threshold. We're
Right.
now a high incident
Right.
district.
Exactly, exactly. So,
And that's just a label, it doesn't get us any extra funding, right?
Right.
it is just a label. You're I mean, there are, I guess, a few benefits that we didn't get to obtain. Had we been high incidence at the beginning of the retail initiative, we would have been in an earlier cohort, which would have allowed us more seats at the table for the SEI training, but we came midstream to that high incidence, so we didn't get that benefit. So occasionally there are benefits, but not monetary, quite honestly, but there are other benefits that might happen. In preparation for our coordinated program review, or CPR, we have redrafted our ELL handbook, accounting for the summer 2015 DESE advisory that changed some of the regulatory language and requirements, and so we have that as updated as we can. Unfortunately, for the way I think about things, every Student Succeeds Act, which just came into effect January, I'm not sure, was it January, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have to redo it again because there are other regulatory changes that have come. That's essentially the No Child Left Behind redraft and reauthorization. So there are some significant changes that are going to be coming with that, and they will be needing to be implemented in the next school year, and we need to kind of look at it. I don't think it's dramatic with regard to service delivery, but it is, we need to reduce some of our handbook as a result of that and reduce some of how we look at things. For example, I'll give you concretes. Right now we monitor kids once they have stopped receiving direct services from our ESL teachers for 2 years. We're going to now need to monitor them for 4 years. So that's a very concrete change that they want with regard to the ESSA Act. And I am going to declare it publicly. This is the last year that we are going to do our Title III consortium grant. I would like to do it all as just one district, us, and not do a consortium effort. We, for 2 years, have been over the 100 count. So we could have applied for the Title III funds independent of the consortium effort. And I had wanted to see if we dipped back down below 100. And since we haven't and we've held pretty steady above, I'd like to do it as just Ashland going for the Title III funds. This will relieve an incredible volume of paper that needs to happen to satisfy the grant requirements. It will make my Jody Anderson in my office happy. It will make in Barbara's office Joan Pulowski very happy, because the volume of what you need to produce to show appropriate expenditure in the grant is tremendous. In terms of another exciting thing that's happening is this summer we will for the first time have an ELL summer camp. We are using Title III funds for that, and we have 2 staff who are very excited. We had a sort of like an open house for parents who are interested. We had 2 students from the high school come volunteer to be translators. They were Portuguese translators, and we did not have one Portuguese family show up. So that was okay. They were great. But we have about 17 students who are interested in the summer camp, which is phenomenal. We hope to have it for 3 weeks, 3 days a week for half days. So I'm very excited about that. The future for ELL, in terms of what I want to focus on, certainly is to keep careful watch of our numbers. You know, that does concern obviously all of us, because that's, you know, tied into making sure that we are appropriately supporting them. We need to work to align the curriculum with the WACA standards and with the Common Core. And that is a challenging piece of work, quite honestly. DESE has not given terrific guidance. They've given some model units now, which is somewhat helpful, but they're pretty onerous in terms of the volume of kind of how you do that. So we're still kind of working to wait to see what the state can offer for guidance for us, but also looking to look at our curricular units and start to align them with the WACA standards. And then we are also talking a lot about thinking about, can we create some sort of a transitional program for brand new immigrants who come into our schools. Occasionally we get kids and their families who are coming fresh from another country. That is a very different student to support than a student who might have English language learning needs, but has been in the United States for several years. So we really feel like we're remiss in figuring out some way of supporting them. And it might be just, you know, kind of a 2-week transitional program option, but kind of fleshing that out and seeing if we can't come up with something that would support these students who come to us, you know, and 2 days ago they were in another country. You know, it's a very huge transition.
Yes.
So that sums up, I think, what I can offer to you for the English language learner
Sort of
side.
Picking up on the last comment you were talking about in that transition program, with the increase in numbers of students who need ELL support services, are you seeing folks coming in with different first languages that they're speaking? Are we seeing a greater variety of languages that students are fluent in? And does that impact what kind of services you're providing, or how much staff and how much energy it takes to support them?
The
Right,
actual
outside of
language.
Spanish and
Oh, I'm
Portuguese.
so sorry.
Yeah, so if you've got Eastern European languages, Spanish, French, whatever it might be, are we seeing a broader range than we were 5 years ago?
I could go back and do some research to answer you concretely. I know that last year when I reported to you folks, I cited 15 different languages in the district. I'm going to say that I'm going to guess it to be in and around the same number of languages, but I can double check it and get back to you on that.
General sense is fine.
My general sense is we are still within the realm of the same kind of groupings of countries and languages that students are speaking. That would be my guess, but I could look at it more clearly.
Does it
In
make
the
a
end, it doesn't
difference?
make a difference.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
it does a little bit to the teaching, because if you're coming from a country where the language is using non-alphabet form, or like Cyrillic, and then you really do have a big difference in terms of the teaching. Chinese to English is very different than saying French to English. But beyond that, whether you're speaking Portuguese or Spanish or Hindi, the learning of English language is actually what we are needing to educate. So it does make it harder for translations. I mean, from the side of communication to families, if we have a low incidence language, finding a translator is a tough call. And sometimes we have to use non-professional translation, which is never great, but you try to do what you can. I know that sometimes on enrollment, people have pulled out their phones to do the translate because that's the best that they can do at that moment in time. Not ideal whatsoever, but sometimes you just can't get the resource.
Thank you.
So I think that is a big challenge for most districts. It certainly is for us.
Kathy, I have a question. You said that you're identifying kids at the preschool level, but we aren't legally obligated to do anything. Is there some sort of cost benefit? Like, the earlier you intervene, right, is usually better for the outcome. So is there a cost benefit, though, even though we're not legally supposed to provide it, to providing some sort of services at the preschool for ELL, knowing that that's going to maybe get them off of our ELL budget earlier once they're in school?
It's an excellent point. I know that almost all the research I've ever seen says hit them hard and early for a variety of things, not just language learning. School is primarily language learning for everybody. There is a thought that people feel okay about the fact that they aren't providing services. I would love to think that maybe there'll be a year where one of the teachers has some free time and can go down to the preschool for a few hours to deliver some services and get that going. It just hasn't been a reality that we've been able to afford doing, especially when I know coming to you the years that I did and saying, can we increase the ELL staff to just meet the required services was tremendously difficult because obviously you're trying to be fiscally responsible to the community, but still provide the services that are necessary for students. So yes, I would love to have, ELL services for kids at the preschool level.
Maybe next time you're in front of us, or even just privately email us and let us know, like, budget-wise, what you think it would take to do a very small-scale program there, and maybe it's something we can consider in the future.
All right, I would love to do that. Thank you. Okay. With regard to special education, as of the March SIMS again, we had 413 special education students. 33 were out of district. In terms of what has been happening this year, the Learning Center program at the middle school has been a huge success. Currently, there are 5 students within that program. 2 of them will move on to the high school at the end of this school year, and 2 students from out of district are coming back in district to come into that program. Wow. And we are beginning that transition process with them. That's huge. Yeah. It's huge. I happen to know who those kids are that are in that program, and to see those kids smiling in the school building, feeling safe within the school building, having a place to go where they feel supported, is such a reward to me as a person and as somebody who, you take your successes in these small moments to see a little munchkin, as I would call them, and they're smiling when you didn't even know if you could successfully support them in the school building a year ago. It's huge. So kudos to the staff who work there. It goes straight from the building administration and obviously from Mr. Adams on down, the support that was received for that program. It's been a godsend for the students who are there. So we're very happy with that.
Kathy, does your SPED number 413 include those that are on building accommodation plans, or is it just IEPs and 504s?
I didn't even count the 504s. This is just IEPs.
Just IEPs.
What's your count of those on 504s? Do you know approximately?
I didn't do that, but last time I did it, which was last year, I think we had about 64, roughly. I'm not sure if it's the same number this year. I can bring that to you, though. Okay. And I have no idea about BCAPs, DCAPs. I'd have to really research that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those fluctuate quite often, the 504s especially, too. You can have a
Yeah.
student on a 504 for a broken arm. You can have a student 504 for concussions. So they just tend to
Yeah.
be a little more,
Yeah.
flexible.
I mean, there was one year, one grade where we have a lot, and every other grade has about, I would say, 6,
Yeah.
but one of our grades has about, I would say, 18,
Yeah.
like 3 times as many. So I'm going to say that that's just a fluke, quite honestly, an anomaly of the data. The related service staff are continuing to struggle with the volume of student need. That's been a consistent theme that I think I have certainly spoken to you folks about before. I am very appreciative of the speech language therapy assistant that was approved to help out with the high volume of need, primarily at Pitaway, but actually has helped throughout several buildings. However, I continue to have great concern with regard to certain related services, including psychology, speech, the BCBA, and the OT. So that's something that we have to watch very carefully. We have needed to utilize contracted services to provide some of the regulated evaluations and supports for students. So again, it's both indicative of the intensity of need that our students have, as well as the fact that our autistic population is growing. And the autistic population typically has a lot of related service needs, including that BCBA need. So it's not a surprise to me that this is happening. It's just hard because, people are feeling very torn between the demands that they have of their job, plus the realities of, wanting to do things that are more in the tiered support fashion. So when you have a school psychologist who wants to offer tiered support outside of what is special education to students, they're going to get the push from me that they have to deliver the special education supports first, the regulated, and then they're torn away from doing the tiered supports, which quite honestly are so incredibly valuable. That's what's keeping kids hopefully away from needing the special education. So it's a constant push-pull with regard to their positions, and I think that that's been challenging, as it has been each year, and this year we're feeling that challenge as well. To give you a sense of the high volume of testing, we've done over 200 educational achievement tests this year. We've done over 160 cognitive tests, over 140 speech assessments, and over 70 motor therapy evaluations, over 85 social emotional assessments. That's huge. Wow. Our preschool autistic population is growing. We believe we will be starting the school year with what is called the workshop, which is our substantially separate classroom that delivers the ABA services for preschool students at full capacity. So we're starting the year at full capacity, which means that for every kid turning 3 next year, if they're autistic and need that space, there's no room at the inn. Mr. Adams and I and Ms. White and Sarah Davidson will be talking to figure out what we can do with regard to a solution. We have some ideas that maybe can work, but it is something that I'm tremendously nervous about, to be honest and frank. These are high needs kids, and again, to speak back to your point of hitting them hard and early, this is absolutely that population that you want to hit hard and early, because the benefits and the gains and the skills that they are able to achieve is so great. And it does save down the road the level of services that they will need.
And Kathy, on that, we're legally required for our autistic population because they're all going to be on AP. So it's going to be a have to. Like, we're going to have to grow that workup classroom to potentially another classroom.
Yeah.
And is it a teacher and 2 aides in the classroom?
No, that classroom is supported primarily by ABA paras because most of the service delivery or the educational modality is ABA methods. So it could be discrete trial training, it could be floor time, it could be video modeling, which typically is a more 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 ratio. So again, it depends on how many kids are in it as to how many assistants or ABA paras that you will need.
So we're strapped for space in that building, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
We are. Yep. Pat said she'd have her office in a tent out back now. Might get to that, though. Let's see.
Go ahead, Mark.
The one thing that Mr. Grimes and one of the students, I think Rob mentioned, the 5-town Special Olympics that we had here at Ashland is probably one of my happy days of the year. We were able to host over 80 student athletes. We had well over 120 student volunteers. We had celebrities. I know Gronkowski was mentioned. However, we also had A.J. Derby and Gino Grissom. We had Pat the Patriot and a couple of cheerleaders. The fundraising that we were able to do supported fully the event costs and then some, so that SOMA has a little bit of extra towards the support of other things that they do for student athletes. I want to shout out to the staff and student contributions from the schools here in Ashland. They raised over $1,300 for the SOMA Special Olympics. Hanover Insurance, Kitty Fenwall, Ashpac, Gordon Multimedia, Holliston Oil, Anne Marie Dance, all contributed funding towards this effort, as well as some in-kind donations, especially Lisa Bowden in the nutrition department, giving free pizza to all of the athletes and volunteers. It was phenomenal. I want to shout out, and Mr. Grimes was not going to share this, but I'll share it. The head of the Special Olympics, Megan Hoffman, who works with a lot of schools and a lot of towns across the state, pulled me aside at the end of our day and said, "Where did you get those football players and cheerleaders?" And I said, "From our teams." What do you mean, where do we get them? They're our kids. And she said, "I have never seen such remarkable kids in all of the events I have ever done." I thought that, quite frankly, Kathy, the flash mob idea at the end of the day was a little hokey, and that your student athletes would not go for it. And she said, the football players were so encouraging of all the athletes, and they were the ones having the most fun, and they were really respectful of every athlete, and it was genuine. You could tell it was genuine. Where did you get these kids? And I just thought, that's Ashland. That's from day one. The committed, kind of thought about, we're here for everybody, and everybody's to be respected and included, is just built year after year after year after year. So where did you find those athletes? Well, we just said, who's interested? And people were lining up saying, we're interested in being a part of this. So, kudos to certainly Mr. Grimes and the athletic department, because the cheerleaders and football players did us proud in terms of their just wonderful support, and obviously from other clubs and activities at the high school as well. We had tremendous support for our student athletes. And then, again, the CPR does start next week, actually, with the record review for ELL, for special education, and for civil rights. In terms of what they look at, it's impressive. I think ELL has 18 areas of compliance, special education has 59 areas of compliance, and civil rights has 26 areas of compliance. So they look at a lot. So they do a record review. We've already done what's called a self-assessment that was done at the end of last year, where we do our own record review and report out the findings to them. They come in next week and look at records, not only the ones we have already reviewed, but then additional records. They ask for a lot of documentation, and then in 2 weeks, they'll set up a load of interviews and do site visits of all of the schools. So we're going through that process right now. Their job is to really help us be better at implementing the regulatory demands of civil rights, of special education, and of English language learners. So typically you do get, findings that say either you're fully implementing those regulations, you're partially implementing, or you're not implementing. If you're partially or not implementing, they ask you to do a corrective action plan, so that you say, okay, this is what you found in terms of where we have some problems and areas we need to improve. This is our plan for how we're going to improve that. So that's kind of what the CPR process is. We probably won't get our findings until next school year, when they give us, their full report. They initially will give us a draft report. We'll have a chance to respond, and then they give us the final report.
Kathy, is it every year? What did you say?
Oh,
Or is
thank
it
God,
like
no.
It's not, okay. That would be a lot, right?
Yeah,
By
it
the
would be
time
an
you get your
awful
results,
lot.
and then you have to do it all again. Okay.
It's every 6 years
6
for the
years,
full
okay.
coordinated program review. When there are findings, they do what's called a mid-cycle review. So they'll come in and they'll look at those areas that they cited you on. If you had no citations, which is kind of unheard of, then they just kind of come in and they look at those indicator areas that they have found have been problematic for a variety of districts. So, they kind of pick the most popular of where people were having trouble
It's like
and look at
NEASC.
those. Pardon me?
It's like NEASC.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
10 years,
exactly.
and then every 2, 3, 4, or 5 reporting out based on whatever the findings are.
Yep. So just to sum up, I think kind of the future needs for special education, Pitaway, and the 3 to 5 year olds and the increasing autistic population. the related services and how we can best kind of continue the regulated services that they provide, but also still affording their ability to provide that tiered support, which I think is incredibly important. I would love to, and this is where I'm not sure I should say it out loud, I'd love to have a learning center at the elementary level, quite honestly, because it's just so incredibly supportive for those kids that have social emotional needs to have that. And I'd also like to revisit and look at our transitional services for 18 to 22. So those are kind of on my radar of, you know, if we could do a little bit more in that direction, I would love it. And if we could build this, that would be great.
Thanks, Kathy.
Questions or comments? Kathy, at Warren, are we close to the 1 in 55 kids when we look at our population versus like the national statistics, like 1 in 34 boys, 1 in 55 total?
You talking about autism?
Yeah.
If we have 413 total kids on ed plans, and last time I counted, there were about 50 kids on the spectrum. Not there yet. We're gonna get there, I would imagine. I think the thing to remember about that, though, is that your designation in any one particular area doesn't define necessarily the level of services that you might, as an individual, receive. We have kids that are, let's say, on the autism spectrum that require residential care because they're so unsafe and so high level of need. We also have students who are graduating within the top 3 of their class. So, you know, it runs a full gamut in terms of those services and supports and, you know, what they need. So, again, I don't want to necessarily misrepresent that number in and of itself would drive a fear, because there are a lot of kids that actually do incredibly well with very small supports within the schools and within their home and community, although they have that as a diagnostic profile.
Kathy, you talked a little bit about social emotional assessments. Can you talk a bit about, you know, in that particular area, are we seeing an increase in the need for those assessments, and then also what are those assessments showing in terms of trends or, you know, anything that we should be aware of, you know, particularly because the school committee, as you may know, has really set that as one of our goals, is to focus on social and emotional needs of the students. So.
I certainly think that Ashland community has been very responsive to the social emotional needs of their students. I think it's a little bit sad for me as an adult to realize that we can have anxious kids at Warren, and that's just sad for me. You know, I kind of believe childhood should be meant for having fun and not having that kind of anxiety that ends up being clinically significant. So I would say the anxiety disorders, OCD, school and social anxieties has been increasing. Behavioral dysregulation, which can fall very broadly in terms of it being both a developmental delay in terms of those social emotional behavioral regulation skills development. It could also be due to other issues such as maybe sensory processing difficulties, neurological impairment, so those get defined a little bit. And I think kind of the comorbid diagnostic profiles where you have 2 diagnostic profiles present within the same kid, we're starting to see more and more of. Massachusetts has always kind of led the charge in being good at being able to diagnose more fully need. I think people research-wise are questioning, is it that we're so good, or are we over-identifying, or is the rest of the nation maybe not using the right measures, et cetera? I kind of think that given what we're surrounded with in terms of the level of excellent health care and mental health care here in Massachusetts, that we're probably much better at being able to diagnose and to evaluate than potentially other areas of the nation. So with that said, I think the increases with depression and anxiety at the lower levels, and the repercussions of coming from families where there is significant dysfunction and trauma. We have a lot of kids that are coming from traumatic backgrounds where things in their family have been very unsettling for them. They're starting to show symptoms of maybe PTSD or, you know, the ramifications of kind of loss and violence and, dysfunction.
Do you think that there's either more or better that we can be doing?
Well, I think one of the things that I do like that has been built in is the increase of just the guidance support and school adjustment support that is being offered to the elementary schools. I think that's critical. They do a stellar job, and yet they just have their hands full. I know just this week alone, Mendez had called kind of for, can anyone help us? They had 4 students dealing with sudden and unexpected deaths, losses, hospitalizations, hospice of family members. And their guidance staff were full out. They couldn't meet all of the needs. We were very fortunate that our middle school adjustment counselor was able to carve out some time to go down and help. Some of it is just the demands that are being asked of all staff. Like guidance staff have to also get ready for park. So they're trying to balance another demand on their time with wanting to meet that social emotional need of the students within their building. And of course, you can never predict when the crisis is going to occur. So I do like that you folks are supportive of that increasing the FTEs or the staffing for the guidance and the school adjustment staff, because I think that that is critically helpful. The other thing, though, is that Mr. Adams has really worked hard at trying to hire and then train people to be sensitive to the social emotional needs of our students. The PBIS efforts, the making sure that staff have a full and supportive understanding of what those needs are is critically important so that they can be responsive and supportive during times when kids can't bring it all to the table in terms of learning and are coming kind of needing some of that social emotional support first. So that is also, very helpful.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Thanks, Kath.
Thank
Okay.
you very much, Kathy.
Thank you all very much.
Information tonight. Appreciate it. Looks like we don't have any policy updates this
Correct.
evening. What about, no minutes
No
either,
minutes.
and how about gifts or donations?
I have one gift and donation. It's from the Mums Club of Ashland, which I didn't even know existed.
Oh, yeah.
Remember.
Okay.
My wife was too.
So the donation is $500 to go towards the Warren School playground.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mom.
You.
Motion?
Sorry. Oh,
No,
sorry.
it wasn't.
I need to go.
You're
I'm
good,
sorry.
Mom.
You're excused.
Bye.
Later,
Night,
Miles.
Miles.
Thank you.
On the downside.
Yeah. We need a motion to accept the
Thanks,
gifts
Miles.
and donations.
So moved.
Second?
Oh, wait, should I? Because I'm on the.
I'll
Moms Club?
move it then. So
Yeah.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You can say aye.
So are you
Open meeting
abstaining?
law.
Are you abstaining?
Huh? Yeah, I'll abstain.
Okay.
Thank you.
Whatever.
Okay.
Don't give
So
anybody any
we're
ammo.
we're there. We're at the end. Member updates.
Remember updates.
Aaron,
So I had a coffee at my house on Monday night.
fabulous.
Yeah.
How was it?
It was good. Jim got to meet Spike the snake.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was a highlight for him. As I think as Yes for Ashland is winding down these coffees and we're getting closer to election day, a lot of it's, so many people know about the effort. So mine was more of a strategy session because most of the people there were already yeses. But it was a good turnout and a diverse group. We had my dad, who's representing the seniors, and then we had some folks from the Ashland Town Democratic Committee. Candidate for State Rep Brett Walker was there. Candidate for School Committee Paul Kendall was there. A couple of my neighbors, so it was good. And thank you to Paul, who's for being here to learn about what school committee meetings are like. I think that's really good for somebody who wants to run to do their research. So I did that. Warren Site Council is next Monday, and one of the members who won't be there is just giving me a ton of information about recess and free time, and so I know that kind of in the background we've all talked about it's kind of in that general area of the social emotional well-being of addressing what Kathy is just saying about stress and anxiety at the elementary level. So I'm really excited to do that. And I think that's it. It's kind of been quiet.
I'm struggling to remember. I did not take the time to make a list of things I wanted to comment on, so I think I'll just pass.
I attended a coffee with Jim last week. I guess, was that last week? Or the week before?
Last week was vacation, right?
Right, the week
So-
before. So that was informative. Mike Herbert was there as well. And then I attended safety committee, God, I can't, was that yesterday, Barb?
Yep.
Today's Wednesday. Where we talked about the bomb threat and the reaction within the district and ways of, how we could do, what we did well, how we could do better, and then reunification plans. And then the completion of the fob readers in all the buildings. And I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I've had quite a couple weeks. I went to a coffee last night with Jim.
I was
again.
there. Yeah. Imagine that.
No, that was another good one. I think everyone was for it, actually. But it was good conversation, good questions are asked. So you hope that that has a ripple effect, that people are gathering information to make a decision. So.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add either after being on vacation. So,
Jim?
I'm good.
Barbara? Nothing?
all right.
Okay.
So action items, we have someone coming in the fall. We're going to talk again in the fall about the plan for school start times.
Yep.
Policy ongoing, athletic handbooks, we just heard tonight that that's wrapping up.
Yep.
And we should hear soon. Warren Clock is in May. What's the exact date on that again,
I
Jim?
had that, I said it was
It's
May
the 14th.
14th?
It's whatever that Sunday.
Or
No, I have
the
it. Let me
Sunday,
pull my calendar.
I just wanted to.
15th maybe.
I
The
remember the last
Thank
time
you.
we
I think
talked
it was
about
the
it, I put it
15th.
on the
At
calendar.
3 o'clock, I think.
The, an update on PBS, we had that
Yep.
last time, we can
And
cross that off
Kathy
the
Silva
list.
today, yep.
Kathy Silva today. Kindergarten Task Force, we said we would revisit that. This says March to,
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, we
that's
had
not
them
right,
come in,
right.
but we wanted to just keep up to date on
Yeah.
what's going on. Full day kindergarten, come
I
again.
think that's what
We should do
7
that
is,
again
right?
in the
Full day
fall.
kindergarten.
Yeah, we
Fall.
just said the fall,
Okay,
with the goal of December of 2018, having a proposal.
okay. And the school committee evaluation, we've completed our evaluation and we will report out on that at our next meeting. We also need to make sure that we have the superintendent evaluation
right,
on
yeah.
here, which does need to take place at our next meeting, because that will be the last meeting with our colleague Gina. So, what that means, everybody does need to find their way to Karen's office to take a look at whatever evidence might be there between now and, I was gonna say the next 2 weeks, but again, this is kind of a big review, so giving me some time to put it together is much appreciated. I don't need a full week, but I at least need a couple of days, I would say. So, so get there before the end of those 2 weeks, and then fill out your evaluation form, which will you forward the rubric?
I have forwarded everything already.
Everybody has their actual rubric to fill out?
Yes.
Okay, and then the goal form, and if you could get to me with your comments, at least, 2 or 3 days before the next meeting, I would really appreciate it. Is that doable for everybody?
So before,
It-
the next meeting's May 11th,
11th.
right?
That's correct.
So you
So-
need it at
I
least a
put
couple days
in the,
before.
I put in
Yes.
the email, I think I said May 6th at the latest.
Okay.
Okay,
So-
so let's
Which
shoot
is
for May
like a-
6th if you need, like, give or take.
All right.
But
I
that's a
do need at
Friday.
least a couple of days, because it's gotta be, it gets presented in summary form to the public.
Is it,
So- I need the chance to put it together.
okay. I was just wondering, you had given us our evaluation electronically.
Yeah, I did.
I didn't
So,
look at it. Is it
yeah, so
electronic?
I sent it
I have
out
it.
to you.
Okay.
It's in Word format.
Yeah,
So if you want to type in it, you can.
Okay.
It's also, what you need to focus on, I think it's pages 3 and 4 are, if I remember correctly, of that packet I gave you, is what's critical to fill out to present to Mrs. Tosti, because the rest of it is for you to actually just fill out your own, looking at the rubric, how you feel things are going. And then, but you provide that summary, and then she'll compile the summaries for an overall rating.
okay.
And what I've tried to do is give you, for standards 1 and 2, those are, to me, the most, obviously they're the most important pieces in terms of what the educator evaluation believes, the Department of Ed, because those are the only two standards that matter in terms of the overall rating. So if an individual is not proficient in standards 1 or 2, they can't be proficient overall. But if they're not proficient in standards 3 or 4, you can still be proficient as an educator as long as 1 and 2 are proficient standards. And 1 and 2 are quite typically more artifact-based, that you won't see all those things, whereas 3 and 4 are pretty observable from your lens. So that's why I provide a summary of the things that relate to the specific standards, elements, and indicators. You won't see all of that evidence in the folders, but if you're looking for something specific and how it relates to the rubric, then just ask and I'll provide something. So.
Jim, how much material is in Karen's office, and if we're thinking about allocating some time to come by and look at it? What's a reasonable amount of time?
Probably half hour, but I'm not good with time, right, Barbara? So no, I would say a half hour, because again, I don't believe in what happened in years past. Was there were these tremendous binders put together, right? And the process in EdEval is not to have every artifact that you've ever created to show that you're meeting standards or the indicators. It's to say, okay, here's a piece of evidence that says this is what I'm doing. Should you need more, then you can ask. Because a lot of the stuff that I put within those standards are really things that are happening at the other schools as well, right? So when we're talking about curriculum alignment and development of standards-based units, which is standard 1, indicator 1, element 1A. Well, that's happening at the other schools. So I would have to go out and get all of the work being done by the educators to pull that in. So I just pull in one piece of it. Here's what we've been doing on professional development days. Here's what it looks like. So, but a half hour would be fine. I think sometimes just sitting and having a conversation for a half hour, if you've gone through the rubric, to say, okay, talk about this. So what I've done is boiled down for you what you should be focusing on within the rubrics are the goals that were set. There are specific indicators and elements that the goals related to that I set for this year, and that's what you have for rubrics in front of you. I've weaned it all out for you, and then you have to look at it and say, okay, under this indicator, as part of the rubric, is it proficient, unsatisfactory, exemplary, whatever it might be.
Everybody comfortable with that?
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you, Jim.
I have a question just in regards to
Sure.
action items. Liaisons, I know that's something we normally do, summer workshop, right?
Yeah.
Liaisons to the different
To
groups?
different groups.
Yes, you're thinking about,
Safety committee, I know Aaron's on it, but we talked about 2 people being on it because that was also supposed to be our maintenance subcommittee, correct?
Correct, but we're only going to have one more meeting for the end of this year. We're going to wrap things up on May 26th. I think the meeting is.
Okay. And then just maybe decisions at every turn, but I can talk to them about what their schedule is over the summer.
okay, yeah, usually we'll do it in the summer, so we give the new person a chance to participate if they want to on one of those committees.
All right. And then Jim, in regards to school start times,
Yeah.
we talked about a, like an implementation committee.
Yep.
So you're thinking around October, you'll create
October
that?
October 15th, I have to come back to this group with an actual recommendation. So as soon as, I'll be clear, as soon as the override and town meeting is done, I'll be pulling together individuals that relate specifically. I've already set meetings with the Tri-Valley League athletic directors,
Okay,
so I could
great.
go and have conversations with them with regard to our plan and working with them. I've had people reach out to me from Heidi Kaufman, for instance, with regard to YMCA and more opportunities for our kids. I've talked to Melissa Mercon-Smith, extended day opportunities. So there are going to be little pockets that I pull together
Okay.
throughout the time. But that needs to be done because I need to present it by October 15th. That's the deadline I have. So, but after town meeting, I'll be pulling little segments together.
Okay.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
great.
Any other questions?
So we have one more meeting, the 11th before.
Right.
Okay.
That's our
And-
last meeting before the board changes.
And I'm looking to change the date to May 24th for our second meeting, because May 25th is the second meeting of town meeting,
Right.
second night of town meeting, which was supposed to be our last meeting in May.
So we'd be meeting on a Tuesday instead of a
Correct.
Wednesday, and this room is available?
Well, Karen's looking into that.
Okay.
As of
Okay.
this morning, Mr. Herbert said it was available, but we had to check with Tara, so.
Is that, would we have a quorum? Is there anyone who could not make it on the 24th, which is a Tuesday night instead of
That may be a challenge for me.
Okay.
Okay,
My wife's out of town on business,
okay.
and I'm not sure when she's back. I can look into the possibility of just getting a sitter for a couple hours too.
Oh, wait,
but-
May? Wait, what are we talking?
We'll have our new members
May,
then
right? We're
to
talking about?
swear in, because part of it is
Um,
we need to have that meeting before the 25th, which is town meeting.
Right, and that would be the meeting when we reorganize too, so we probably should make, try to do it on a date when
Right.
everybody can be there.
Is it just, never mind.
Could we,
Is it just for the new member, or, I mean, we're gonna do business, what are we gonna do?
We'll have a little bit of business to
Little
do
bit
as
of
well,
business,
because we have
alright.
to start presenting school improvement plans.
Okay,
Let's say,
I think I.
Monday,
I can do
Tuesday.
it. Oh,
I mean, I just have to check the calendar, so I need to get something.
right.
Right, we could even do it during the day if that ended up being better, like a morning.
yeah.
meeting.
Monday, the
it's-
23rd would be better for me, and then Tuesday I can't. I'm in all-day meetings, but I could do Tuesday night. I don't really want to. I'm coaching lacrosse now, so I don't want to miss that. But
Okay,
if I have
so-
to, I can.
But Monday night would work?
Yeah, looks like it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the 2 days I'd have a problem.
Okay.
I can do something during the day if that turned out to be easier for people, or if we,
On Tuesday?
We won't
night?
know with our new members either, so.
Right.
right. Worst case scenario, if all we need to do is the reorganization part before town meeting, we could do that at 6 o'clock on the 25th. Town meeting's at 7.
Correct.
And we just.
We could.
That's true.
That's true.
And I'm okay with that. Again, I just wanted to get another meeting in
Yeah,
May,
I
just because of
understand
school improvement plans, and possibly the student
We
athlete
often
handbook.
post for 6 anyway, just in case there's like a town meeting issue that
No,
we all need to talk about.
No, I understand that.
So do we want to just post for 6, and then, most of us are going to town meeting anyway, right?
Yes.
And then we'll just have to make it a really short agenda?
That's fine.
Does that
So
work
we'll
for
keep
you?
it the 25th. We'll post
I'm only
it.
just concerned about not having a quorum.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll post it for the 25th,
Have it at the high school?
and we'll have it
Yeah.
I'll
We'd have to
get a
have it
room
in
at the high school.
library or wherever you
We'll do
want
it in the principal's conference room.
us. Okay,
Yeah. So we'll keep it on the 25th for 6 o'clock, which is our normal meeting time at the high school.
and I'll tell you what, if when Jim and Kathy and I sit down to do the agenda, and for some reason it looks like it's a bigger agenda than we thought, I will either see if you guys can come at 5,
Right,
or
yeah.
we'll talk about some other, I don't think that's gonna happen.
No, and I
But-
think we can actually get through a couple things quickly enough. We can certainly have, I know Ms. St. Kerr was finalizing tonight the school improvement plan, as was Dave at his next meeting.
Right.
And so we could certainly have 1 or 2 people present for 20 minutes and be fine, and get one of them out of the way.
Okay,
So we can make it work.
everybody good with that? We need a motion to adjourn and to go into executive session, not to return to open session.
So moved.
And then we need to take a poll second,
I'll second.
and then who's the secretary here?
Aye.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
good
you.
night.
Good night.
And Ashland.